in session at 4 o'clock. Just to remind everyone that this meeting is being audio and visually recorded. So if you speak, you will be in some archives for a long period of time. Now, as far as the agenda, we have, if you recall, we continued the bathroom issue at Cisco. And so we will put that on the agenda. And the Sheep's Head Road issue, we continue, but that's not on the agenda. You said they resolved that?
Yeah, we approved that in office. They made the changes to make it comply.
Terrific. I like that. Okay, public comments. Anyone have anything to tell us? A subject not on the agenda.
Okay. All right, Meg Rulli, I think you're on mute.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Meg Rulli, and I emailed earlier today to the health department and the Board of Health. Actually, I emailed yesterday and then followed up today. And it's regarding the new mandate that the Board of Health passed in the fall. I want to say it was September or October, that when a property transfers, owners or buyers or sellers, whoever decides, is required to test the private well, if they're on private well, for water quality, which includes PFAS testing. And that was going into effect in January of 2024. And I was doing I'm a real estate broker. I was doing some research for two of my clients, both on private wells, one in Pocomo and one in the Surfside area. And wanted to see what their water quality was to be able to share with my client, and found that there was no data or reports about water quality in the health department files. I was told from Michael Maynard that right now they're still working out administrative procedures for this new mandate that went into effect in January. And I was told by John Hedden that the two properties that I was looking for the information for were in violation of the mandate. So after that email, I did, just for fun, wanted to see how many properties with wells transferred since January. There were 13 of them. None of those wells that I looked up in the health department files had any well water quality PFAS reporting at all in the files. And my question is, I know people are busy. I know that you have the Board of Health and the health department have a lot of things to do just besides water quality and PFAS. But with this new mandate, I think it's super important that we start, following this. I mean, I know I have people test for wells. I'm sure people are testing their wells, but how come the data is not in the health department file? So that's all. I just wanted to bring it to your attention that I really do see that as an issue, and that if the health department has that information, I would think it would go into the file. That's all.
You want to comment? I had a little trouble hearing, but.
Oh,
Okay.
sorry.
I mean, I can offer up a comment, I think.
Just a comment, and then we could follow up.
Okay. I think it's just going to take a little bit of time for this local regulation to, everyone's aware of Title V with septic systems, and that needs to be done at the time of a property transfer, except for obviously the exemption. So that's a state regulation. So this is local. We're the first town in Massachusetts that's ever done this. So I think it's probably going to take a little time for us to go after a few people and get this to be caught up with, all the property transfers that happen.
Okay.
That would be my, as of right now, again, we're not even three months into it. So, but we'll be catching up with.
I think it's a matter of just being patient and time and.
Yeah, I mean, it's not that it's not important to us. This is one of the primarily most important things to us in a health department.
We can comment, but we really can't discuss it because it wasn't on the agenda.
Right, okay.
But John made the comment, and if you wish to follow up, I'd appreciate that.
Sure.
So what happens right now when properties transferring today and tomorrow and a week?
They're required to, within a year of the property transfer, to have a water test done.
Okay.
Okay.
So, and those results submitted to the health department. So, Meg, do you have another comment or?
Another comment that I just wanted to bring up. I also know that Mass DEP has been doing an ongoing investigation on the island, and they've tested probably close to 30, 40, probably more wells. And all of that data is CC'd to Michael Maynard and Roberto Santamaria, or maybe John, that's you now as the interim. And I didn't see any of those lab results either in any of the files. So maybe you're not doing that for a reason. I don't know, but I just wanted to let the Board of Health know that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't received that, so I'll have to go back and look at that.
Yeah.
And I had, actually, that was totally serendipitous, because my question was going to be that when water tests go to Barnstable and they come back, does the Board of Health get those results, or is it the responsibility of the property owner to turn them over? Because I was not sure what how the data flows, because we should be monitoring, but do we have to get it based upon owners voluntarily submitting it?
Yeah, I'd have to go through the exact definition in the regulation, but I believe it's on the property owner to submit those.
Again, it's really not
Yeah,
on the
that's-
agenda,
that's-
so we can't
That's
discuss
what I was
it.
asking. It's not a
So,
data.
but Jonathan will follow up and maybe next meeting, put it on the agenda and catch up on the whole issue. We'd
Yeah.
appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Approval of minutes. We have minutes from January 18th and February 15th. I just have a follow-up question on the minutes. On the 18th, there was a discussion, there was going to be a meeting with Martha's Vineyard and Barnstable County about tick-borne disease strategies. Did that ever happen?
That did not happen that I know of. Maybe Roberto
Okay.
was involved in that before.
If it did, again,
had
at
their
the next
baby?
meeting or in your director's report, could you just update us on that? Because
Yes.
we are getting into the tick season,
Yep.
and given the warm winter, we're probably going to have a fair amount of tick activity. So I'd like to make sure that the town gets our outreach out to people soon.
Yes, absolutely.
So if you could put that in the next agenda. All right, and then do I have a motion for the January 18th and 15th and February 15th minutes?
Second.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Chairman says aye. Just for the record, Ms. Lepre is in Ireland. So that's why she's not here today. Okay, we have a whole bunch of loan requests. Let's start with 30 Arab Drive.
30 Ahab.
Yes.
This one is just a failed system, and they're asking for the loan, which we've, that's not the purpose of the program to, unfortunately. I think we had one of these at last meeting, same scenario where it was, just a failure, and they were asking for the loan for the repair of their system.
Right.
It's not located in a zone, so.
It's not it's not
No,
our
it's
usual
outside.
criteria.
Yeah, it's outside the Hummock
Right.
Pond watershed, so.
Questions from the board? Do I hear a motion?
Motion to deny the loan?
Second.
Discussion?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Loan is rejected. 108 Surfside Road.
Yeah, so this one has a little bit of a history. It was partially approved back in, I think it was December or January. Essentially for new construction of the lot. They were proposing to do an IA on an acre lot, which was approved. And then now they're adding a new house and a garage, I believe. Again, really revolves around new construction and kind of maxing out the lot. And again, this isn't really the intent of the loan program. So I'm not sure. Oh, looks like we have the property owner here.
Okay. There's something about the reverberation of the sound.
Can you guys hear
Okay.
me? Hello?
Yes, we can.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi. So you guys actually you approved me generously a few months ago. The loan actually isn't for the new construction at all. The loan was actually the septic system was on my parents' property. We subdivided the property. The septic system is still technically on their property, which is the septic system for the existing cottage. You approved me of the loan a while back. I am attempting to be my own GC for my house, which has been much harder than I ever expected. And what happened is we went to close on our bank, and I unfortunately didn't know that the bank needed to have to be the first lien. The mortgage needed to be the first lien, and then the town would need to be the second lien. So I'm not really asking for anything different, just to be approved for what you already previously approved me for, which was, I believe, 1/3 or the cottage amount for that loan. I just unfortunately did it too soon without understanding that that lien needed to be the second lien on the property as opposed to the first lien. I apologize because I'm learning as I go while I do all of this.
Yeah.
Now I'm confused now.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we did talk about this, and this was the one where we split, we talked about a percentage of
Yes,
the
I
loan
remember
based
that.
upon
Right.
the existing construction. So I guess, so is this for that exact same condition where we approved for based on existing construction, or is this
Yeah,
something different?
nothing has changed. It's exactly what you approved of before. I just didn't cash the check and didn't do anything with it because I needed to have the first lien on my property be my mortgage, not the town. The town needs to technically be the second one. So I couldn't cash your check. I had to close for my mortgage first, and now I need to come back to you and hopefully get what you've already approved previously, which was a couple months ago.
Comment?
I mean, it's
How much was the loan for?
they're
16.
requesting 16,000.
Yes. I mean,
What I have in here.
it's the same amount, I think. I remember it was a very proportional amount. And if it's really just that we're just reapproving it for the sake of getting in proper order,
I have no problem.
I don't have a problem with that at all. As long as it's the same thing, just, bank first, does second. I don't have a problem with that as long as that's what it is.
Is there a time limit on loans?
I'm not, Heather, do you know, is there time limits? I mean, it's, sure. Heather's heavily involved with the whole septic loan. She actually rewrote the application, so you can hopefully clear some stuff up.
Hi. So I'm Heather Nardoni. I'm now the new public health inspector, but I was a public health coordinator that was dealing with the septic betterment loans. So I don't know if there's a time limit per se, but it is definitely just a weird situation because technically we have to release this loan, and then she's reapplying because we released it. So she returned her check. Technically, we would use this Board of Health meeting to release it. But since she was applying, I didn't add it as an apply and a release because I thought that would be really confusing on the agenda. But that's my understanding of it.
So it's the request is to release and reply and reapply.
Yes. So technically, we have to release this loan completely. And because she returned the check to us, and then this is a new application, even though it's the same thing.
Got you.
And then we're gonna have to cancel the check and then reissue another check.
Any other comments from the board?
It's just for the same amount of money.
It would be for the same amount of money, yes.
So we'd need a motion to release the loan as a first motion.
Correct.
Do I hear such a motion?
Motion to release the form for a loan for 108 Surfside.
All right, I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So the loan, now we need a motion to approve, to reapprove the original request, well, which is now request before us. Do I have a motion for that?
I'll make that motion, yes.
I'll second it. Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
60 Novadear Avenue, local upgrade approval for septic setbacks to property line.
Sorry, I'm just working the computer here. I don't know if, okay. So this is an upgrade of the system that was due to new construction or a renovation they were doing. There's a leach pit on the property, which is in the corner of the property. They're going now to leach trenches, which are going to be within the 10-foot setback to property lines. Due to where all the wells are located, the well radius is, they're keeping the trenches outside of the well radiuses, and they're siting the leach trenches next or real close to the property line, I think about a foot. So it's really maximum feasible compliance in this type of a scenario. They're required as part of local upgrade approval to notify the abutters, and it has to be placed on an agenda. So it's kind of a formality out of local upgrade approval to have the neighbors, have a chance to speak if they'd like. I don't see anyone raising their hand in the chat or in the audience, so we recommend approval.
All right. No comments from the audience or chats? Do I hear a motion?
I guess motion to approve the whatever road, 60 Novadear Avenue variance.
You made a motion to approve?
Yeah.
All right, I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Chairman says aye, that is approved. 156 Nantucket Road.
Yep, we should have someone here to speak on that one. Okay, Ryan, can you just state your name and company and everything for the record?
Yep, this is Ryan Maxwell with Bracken Engineering. John, are you able to give me permission to share my screen or turn on my video?
Oh, geez. You're really putting me to the test here.
If not, I mean, I can just speak. It's fine. If everyone has
I have a pen and pad here. Does that work? No.
Maybe. Technical assistance is on the way.
We got help coming. I'm in trouble now.
Okay. How's that?
Go ahead and try to share your screen now.
Okay.
Okay, so we should be looking at our plan. If everyone can see that.
Are you able to blow it up a little bit, Ryan? Or maybe.
Yep. How's that looking?
A little bit better. Maybe.
Okay. All right. Well, if everybody can see that, I'll just get into it. So, again, Ryan Maxwell with Bracken Engineering. This property at 156 Nantucket has an existing 4-bedroom house here that's serviced by a septic tank and a leach pit, and also an on-site well. As you can see on the plan, the groundwater flow, excuse me, is in like a westerly direction across the property. And although this site predates the requirement that we stay out of this 300-foot well protection zone, we're choosing to show it on our plan to better plan and site for our system. The proposed project here is renovating the existing house and going from 4 bedrooms to 6 bedrooms, and constructing this 2-bedroom cottage over here. And since this property falls in the Nantucket Harbor watershed area, both of these buildings will be tied into this microfast tank here, which is going to cut down on the nitrogen loading of this system almost in half, which is a great benefit. The siting of the leach field in the reserve area is why we're before you today, asking for 2 of the Nantucket variances. The first variance is the 50-foot property line requirement that the primary and the reserve are, 50 feet from this property line here. And the other one is the requirement that the primary and the reserve area be separated by 15 feet. So we chose to site the leach field in a way that we felt best protected public health and water quality by staying outside of this 300-foot well protection zone that's actually coming off of our own well here. In doing so, we do force ourselves closer to this northern property line, which is why we're asking for these variances. I did double check to see if we went inside of our, this 300-foot area, if we could meet all of the requirements, and we just can't. So we'd be back before you either asking for relief from the 150-foot well requirement or, the same setback to the property lines. Let's see. So it was mentioned in the staff report that, this property does have access to town water, which it does. There's a water main on the other side of Nantucket Road. The reason why we're not showing, a tie-in to public water is that the cost to, cross Nantucket Road, cross the bike path and run, 300 feet up to the main house is pretty cost prohibitive. And given that there's already a well on site that's working fine, and we're able to site our system outside of it, we felt it appropriate to ask for the variances instead of tying into water, town water rather. So additionally, this septic design here is meeting all Title V requirements, all other requirements aside from those 2 Nantucket variances that we're requesting. And, I know Don has touched on this in the past, and I'll just sort of reiterate it. The 50-foot property line setback requirement, the spacing of the reserve and the primary, they're really not adding any level of protection to public health, groundwater quality, the environment, or anything like that. And we'd really like the board to take that into consideration when they look at granting these variances. And I think that's it from me, but I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Yeah. Has the water and the well water been tested recently for PFAS? Because you're going from 4 bedrooms to 8 bedrooms, will be more people if that water is contaminated.
I don't believe a recent test has been done, but we could provide that.
Yeah, well, again, if you haven't, and I would think that you might want to do that before you decide if you're going to go to town water or not. Because you're probably going to want to go to town water if your PFAS levels are high, and we are seeing those in Nantucket now.
Good point. Other comments? John, you have a comment?
I mean, I guess my comment is if they hook to town water, it looks like they could meet all the setbacks and everything. So in short, it looks like they can comply if they connected to town water.
They have town water goes right by that property.
Mhm.
So if they did away with the well and tied it into town water, there wouldn't be a problem. So,
And again,
so they have a way to do it.
yeah, and it also might be from a health point of view,
Right.
a considerable difference. So would this be something that we could recommend continuance and in the interim that you do well testing to see if it's a good move to consider using the well?
We can do whatever you want to. We want to.
Yeah, if a well test would help, we can certainly get that.
It's down here, right there.
Just-
Yes,
It seems that
just get a little
the
closer.
only concern here is expense. Am I right? I mean, we're hearing that you could tie in. It's right there. It's just a long way. And it'll involve a lot of construction or digging or whatever, but I don't know, are we allowing things just because it's more expensive to do it one way than another?
I don't think we are. I mean, if we can show, or they can show that they could do it legally by tying to town water, there wouldn't even be a problem. They wouldn't need a variance for anything. And they have that power because the water goes right by the property.
And our tradition has been, we tend to grant variances if there's no other solution to the
That's-
problem.
That's exactly what I.
That's been the history of this board.
Right.
So,
Well, if you're not gonna worry about, if you're not gonna test the well, I make a motion that we deny the problem.
Could I just,
I think testing the well is a whole different subject. Testing the well is a sort of a nice thing to do, but I think the bigger subject is, as Malcolm was saying, do we allow variances when there is another way to solve the problem?
We
That-
don't. We never have.
we never
Yeah,
have.
we don't.
We never had from day one.
One exception when there was a true, the particular person that applied, it was a significant financial hardship, a real significant. So I think that was rare.
Yeah.
So do I hear a motion?
Oh,
I mean,
Mr.
testing the water would be a nice thing to do, but it's irrelevant to the point of the fact that they have water that's accessible.
Mr. Chair, I
And
think
if-
the
if you
applicant
approve
has
this-
their,
Yeah, yes,
go ahead, Ryan.
go ahead.
so I was just going to add, tying into water is certainly an option, and I can understand the rationale for denying the variance because of that. Our point of view is that regardless of tying into town water, and we certainly would get that well test if that was what the board wanted, but we're essentially providing the same level of protection with this system as we would be if we're on a private well. So the granting of the variances, or sorry, rather the denying of the variances is not, providing any added level of protection here that wouldn't be there under these proposed conditions. Meaning the 50-foot setback off of the property line is not protecting anything. The separation between primary in the reserve is not adding any level of protection that wouldn't otherwise be there.
Again, I would tend
The way
to,
this thing works, the way it's always
Get
worked
close to
for
your
us
microphone.
since day one, the way this has always worked for 16 years that I've been here. We picked a way, took the thing the way we were gonna go. And if you come to us for a variance and you have a way to make things work without a variance, we don't let you do it. You have to go the way it is. If they didn't have water going by there, that's a different story. They have water going right by the property. If they tie into the water, they don't need a variance, they don't have a problem.
Any other comments? Anyone? Hearing no comments, do I hear a motion?
I make a motion to deny.
second the motion.
Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion to deny the variance, say aye.
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 Chairman says aye, variance denied.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, Ryan, since I still have you on there,
Yeah.
you said you wanted to hold off on 35
Yeah.
Warren's Landing, is that correct?
Yep, the applicant for 35 Warren's Landing has requested a continuance to the April meeting, if the board will grant that.
Do I hear a motion to continue the 35 Warren Landing?
Which one?
There's
There's two, there's the loan request and then one's for the Covenant House and one's for,
Which one are
Something.
we
yeah, which one are we?
It's
continuing?
the variance request.
It'd be items 8 and 9.
Okay, it's together?
Yes, yep.
So the
Oh,
8,
yeah.
9 is, we're continuing till next week. Do I hear a motion?
Motion to continue items 8 and 9, 34 Warren's Landing till the April meeting.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I say aye, that's continued.
All right, thank you.
And now we're back to Cisco Beach. We continued that to this meeting.
Correct, yep.
And our request was for the two sides to get together and find a solution.
Yeah.
How'd we do?
I think we received a few emails from the land bank, Eleanor Antonetti for the land bank. She was communicating mostly with Sean, so if Sean, if you could speak to that. Oh, and Eleanor has.
I'm Sean Reed, a public health inspector. Yeah, so Eleanor communicated with our office, but unfortunately, so far, we haven't come up with an agreement that would suit kind of the what we feel like would be like the safety of mobile food units at Cisco Beach.
And then,
Were there any particular issues that were, I mean, that seemed to be holding it up in terms of whether it's access to proper equipment or that the public might access it, or what was?
I just think that, and I'll let Eleanor speak, and I think that she has her hand raised, but we didn't come to an agreement with them wanting to agree to have a, one of the bathrooms that we talked about before.
Mhm.
And I can kind of let her speak on that.
Okay.
Hello, can you hear me?
I can hear you, but
Not exactly.
it's,
How about now?
Better.
that's better.
Okay.
Whatever you did is better.
I will talk as loudly as I can without disturbing the peace. Sorry I can't be there. I've been in a procurement class for 3 straight days, and after this, I'm going to go take an exam. So my brain's a little fried, but I'll do my best to be articulate. I do want to thank the health department, Sean in particular, who did attempt to help me wend my way through this process. I spent the last basically month doing research, well, several weeks prior to the commission meeting last week, doing research to present the options to them. One would have been to purchase a portable restroom facility, which still wouldn't at great expense have solved the problem of how do we deal with no power and no direct access to water and keeping it from being vandalized. Then I found of the 2 local vendors from whom one can rent these particular units, only one was willing to. The other one said even if he had an available unit, he wouldn't. And I will tell you why. I won't name that person, but the other one was willing to rent. The issues really come down to a couple of things. One is that we would need to have a generator, which would have to be outside of the unit because there's no access to power. So to get the water to be the required temperature, which I believe is 100 degrees Fahrenheit, would have to have a generator to do that because it's otherwise cold water. We'd also have to have the unit retrofitted with the water tank, with a hot water heater, I'm sorry, that's powered by the generator. So there are a lot of elements to that that are costly. The renting of the unit and the daily cleaning and buying or renting a generator, fueling the generator, and then the cost of our field crew spending time monitoring this generator, the unit, etc. It's not really about the expense for the land bank. It's really not. It's about the concerns we had with the generator could be really a safety hazard. I mean, it would have to be used on demand. And for us to turn that over to the vendors and their employees, because this would be for the exclusive use of the vendors and their employees, and potentially the surf school, although we wouldn't be required to provide access to the surf school. That's a lot of responsibility, and I don't think we really want to put that on the shoulders of the vendors for a variety of reasons. And then our field crew, as you can imagine, is really stretched thin enough as it is with the massive swaths of property that they have to monitor and take care of over the summer. So, many times a day visit to see if the generator's operating okay, or if there are any problems, to make sure the unit's opened and, and then locked at the end of the day, et cetera, et cetera. So there were just a lot of logistical elements that the commission felt leery of. So the reason I'm coming back to you is sort of hat in hand to say we did really take a good look at the options. It didn't come down to a financial issue. It came down to concerns to do with sort of safety, generally speaking, in this particular area. So, like the Dreamland has a really nice unit they have for the drive-in, but they have access to power and running water there. So it's a whole different, and they also, by the way, have revenue coming in from ticket sales to sort of offset some of those costs. That again is not the issue here, but just to differentiate between the two situations. And then I think the other thing that I really wanted to ask you for, and I know, again, this is me being hat in hand, but was if it would be possible this summer to once again allow for no more than 2 hours of operations of up to 3 licensed, permitted mobile food unit vendors on the premises without the installation of this trailer, this portable restroom trailer with all of the amenities that are required. So that's what I'm coming back to you with. And I wish I could have had an easier solution, but just honestly, it was a matter of doing what would be the most appropriate and safe thing at this particular very, very vulnerable site. And also not putting too much of an onus on both the vendors, their employees, and our crew. The other thing that came up was the potential for vandalism of both the generator, which would have to probably be locked into the unit at the end of the day, and vandalism of the unit. We would be 100% liable for anything like that. And at a place like Cisco Beach, one can imagine there might be some vandalism, no matter whether it was locked or not. So that's another concern that was brought to my attention by the vendor the person who did not want to rent to us, even if he had an available unit. So there you have it.
Okay, I got a gist of it. It was pretty muffly.
Eleanor,
from the board.
Eleanor, when you said 3 vendors, is that 3 vendors on the site at the same time, or is that 3 vendors who are rotating through the site during a week?
Can you hear me okay? I don't want to mumble. I'm so sorry. Can you hear me okay?
Right now we
Yeah.
can, yes.
Okay, sorry about that. So in the past, we have had up to 3 vendors that we have licensed on the premises. Now, mind you, last year we licensed 2, and the most popular one, and the one who's been there since he was about 15 years old, is Jack Decker. And he is consistent and he shows up every day. Other vendors sometimes don't show up. They might go to another site. They might have something else going on. So, but Jack has been absolutely reliable and consistent, showing up every day that the weather permits. So he's the one we're kind of most concerned about, because he's, you know, this kid put himself through college selling his hot dogs. And we just feel very kind of loyal to him. But we have allowed up to 3, no more than 3 on the premises at the same time. Now, if you would like us to restrict that in order to obtain this, even down to 1 or 2, obviously I would be beholden to you and your determination on that front. And there is an exemption, I'm sure Sean or John can clarify for us, for you, for me, but there is some sort of an exemption in terms of the hot dog vendor having wipes on their, like hand wipes on their unit. Now, that doesn't preclude the need for a toilet, I believe, but in terms of hand washing, I think there's some interesting exemption for hot dog vendors.
Well, frankfurters are considered to be not as potentially hazardous as other foods, so they kind of, because they're already cooked. So I guess the feeling from staff, I guess I'll just put in my comment. You know, porta potties, they're just obviously not the most sanitary toilet. You know, it's not something we'd allow for a restaurant operating every day. That's preparing food to be their source of a bathroom. I mean, that's already in the local regulation for food facilities, food establishments, sorry. I mean, Jack's Jack's Dogs is a lesser impact establishment. You know, our greatest concern is a food truck is a kitchen on wheels, really, and so people are going in there handling a lot of food, cooking, you know, prepping, cooking food. To Eleanor's point, more than, you know, using tongs and gloves to scoop out a hot dog and put on a bun. Again, it's, you know, hand washing stations should be conveniently located for people handling food and everything. And, you know, if you can't meet a temperature of 100 degrees, then, you know, you're not really meeting the code. And again, it comes down to porta potties are really just a temporary event type of a situation. So, you know, obviously the best case scenario is a bathroom that can be easily cleaned with running water and everything.
May I ask a question, John?
Yes, please go right ahead.
Just for clarification. So you all may know that porta potties have been installed out at that site for as long as I can remember, and those are installed and paid for by the town. We don't actually do that, but there always is a porta potty in the parking lot at the Cisco Beach. But that's for everyone, the public included, and they're cleaned on a daily basis, obviously, because that's required. So I fully understand that it's not as clean and tidy and nice as a portable restroom trailer, but that's what's been there for quite a long time, for both public and anybody, the vendors as well. So I'm just curious if you require them to be cleaned daily. Again, not ideal, but it's been allowed up to now. So I'm just wondering, I guess, if that's not, are you not going to allow porta potties there anymore? Or are you just considering that a public benefit?
That would be for the food establishments.
Yeah,
I mean, I
we're
think,
dealing about the food handlers.
right, correct. I mean, I think we'd have to, you know, I guess a different way to think about this is if there was this situation at every beach on the island, and there was a porta potty and a food establishments there, and you know how sanitary that is for every day. That's the form of a restroom.
Is the main issue really hand sanitation?
Yeah, and tracing in, you know, using those porta potties, and yeah, definitely hand washing is a biggest part.
Are there any what, like in terms of alcohol or any of the like the COVID stuff that, is there anything that's considered to be equally safe as an alternative?
There's not. I mean, there
Okay.
are portable hand washing stations that people rent out for parties and stuff like that. Actually, if you're in the Seaport in Boston, there's Cisco Brewers there, and they have porta potties there with the portable hand washing stations. They're the pump stations. Again, we just fall back to is this acceptable and sanitary for a food operation?
Are there any
Used on a
solar
daily
hot
basis.
water systems? I mean, if we're talking about a beach in the summer, I mean, like they use down in the islands where they had the black bags that heat the water up, and it would have to be tested to see if it's 100 degrees.
Right.
But I mean, that seems potentially, I don't know if those exist. I'm just, from my island experience that, those were around.
Right.
And, is there an option that can be explored using more solar heat to heat the water up and therefore have a hand washing station devoid of electricity?
Right.
Does this now open it up to every beach where a food truck wants to go? They will be allowed to have porta potties? If you're gonna do it for this one beach, yeah, you gotta do it for everybody.
I think that would have to be the consideration, or for every applicant, coming in and asking for that. So,
But you're gonna have
so that's
porta
the
potties
concern.
on every beach where there is a food truck.
Could be possible, yeah. So,
Well, we have to be fair and consistent, so if
You do it for one,
we have to do it for everyone.
you have
Oh,
a big long line.
sorry, there's Jack Decker has his hand up.
Go ahead.
Okay,
Hi, can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Jack Decker. Yeah, I'm the owner of Nantucket Beach Dogs. It's been out at Cisco since 2010, and I will admit the porta potties are not the cleanest, but it's worked up until now. And I just wanted to really add, just for the record, that I do have a hand washing sink attached to my hot dog cart with water well over 100 degrees. I have dish soap, hand sanitizer. So if the issue is just cleaning hands, I have the solutions to get my hands as clean as possible after using a porta potty. So, you guys are talking about the electricity-free black solar bags and all of that, but I already have hot water. So I'm just wondering if we're just adding that to the record.
Is that situation something that the board is, I mean, so that puts it on the vendor to have a system? And would that meet or get us really close to what we want to be meeting?
well, he is. I mean, every food establishment's required to have a hand washing sink, so he's correct on that. And his is probably powered by propane, or I'm not sure, but anyhow.
And it has to be on the outside though, too, doesn't it?
Yeah, he's on the outside. He's a
Okay.
cart, so
Right.
he's fully outside. He's not enclosed. I think we're just looking for a permanent solution, instead of battling porta potties, summer in, summer out for every single day. Last year we allowed the middle ground to be 2 hours at a time. I think that was based on how the application was approved back in 2010. It showed the hours as being there for 2 hours. So I think that's what we fell back onto last year. Again, looking to move on to a more permanent situation.
If this is approved, whose responsibilities will the porta potties?
I'm sorry.
if you open this up and every beach is gonna have the trucks and the porta potties, whose responsibility are the porta potties? For the trucks, for the town?
Sorry. So essentially, yeah, I mean, any bathroom is the responsibility of a food establishment. They should have control to, make sure there's toilet tissue, things like that. So I'm not sure how the land bank.
Yeah. Well, just
Wait,
like a matter-
I can help answer that a little bit if you like.
So a lot of this is muffled for some reason, but there are some food vendors that do have the capability of hot water in their facilities to wash.
Yeah, that's required of every food establishment, mobile food, brick and mortar.
So
It comes into the consideration of just the cleanliness of the porta potties. And again, this isn't, for a brick and mortar, it's not the toilet situation we'd allow.
if the truck or the establishment has the ability for them to wash their hands, then is there an issue here? Or if essentially it's the responsibility of the vendor?
Yeah, because the porta potties, like
I
we take,
want to interrupt you, but my question would be, right now, what do the rules state that every truck has to have a hand washing system in it?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, every
So
food
when you got-
establishment.
When you look at the trucks and give them their permit, they all have a system that they can wash their hands.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Sean pointed out last meeting that the hand washing should happen, after you use the restroom outside before you go walk back into the truck and, contaminate the truck with your hands when you're going inside. So I think Jake might have a comment.
Sorry, Jake Visco, Health Inspector. No, I was just going to make that point that the concern is that you use the porta potty, you go back into the food truck, and then you wash your hands. The food truck, the hand washing sink in the food truck is for food preparation. It's not for after using the bathroom to wash your hands. That's the big concern here. I think that we need to.
that the sink should be, in theory, on the outside before you would enter the food truck.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I asked, like, when, I guess on the card, it's a separate issue because the whole card is open air. Where on a truck, it really should be, there should be an outside sink before they would re-enter the truck. Ideally.
Or like a bathroom, you wash
Yeah,
your hands
or-
in the bathroom and you're out.
Yeah, but the other issue that we'd asked, that Jim had talked about, is like, so at Nantucket Beach, we don't have food, but we have porta potties that are put there, I'm assuming by the town, that's part of the town beach thing, and so they're either maintained by the town or by a contract with the porta potty vendor. So that falls on, those seem to be town responsibility, the porta potties themselves.
I've
Go ahead.
been doing a little bit of very quick research, and I just want to read something. To help prevent pathogen spread, the WHO, World Health Organization, recommends hand washing with soap and water or cleaning hands with alcohol hand sanitizer. So this is not the first, but this is the clearest that I've been sort of reading. It appears that what I'm reading or have read in the last 5 minutes is that alcohol of at least 60% removes as many, if not more, germs and pathogens. What it doesn't do is remove chemicals and things like that, which soap and water would do. So I guess maybe I'm wondering why we're being such sticklers. If we're worried about pathogens that would be on someone's hands after having used the bathroom, could we not say, as the WHO is saying, soap and water or a hand sanitizer that's at least 60% alcohol?
Yeah, I mean, the food code doesn't allow for hand sanitizer to be a substitution for hand washing. So the one thing I will say is Jack's Dogs is all outside. It's a cart, so he's not bringing in the contaminants from inside the porta potty inside of an enclosed vehicle. So I think that might be a little bit different.
So the code, what we're worried about really is what the code says, not
Yep.
what is in reality, whether a hand sanitizer would actually do the job.
Well,
Because aren't we really worried about that a person would get something onto their hands and then pass it into the food and then introduce it to the public?
yeah, or bring it into somewhere into an enclosed area.
Is there a way we can give a variance for this kind of setup?
I hear staff rustling out there. Do you have comments? And then I have some thoughts.
Sure, go ahead. Jake Bisco, Health Inspector. I would just say, you can't go less strict than the food code, the minimum standards, so we gotta comply with what that says. So we couldn't really give them a variance on using hand sanitizer as a substitution.
Heather.
Okay, Heather Nardoni, Public Health Inspector. My understanding is that the food code is hand washing and not sanitizer, because when someone's washing their hands, they're getting under their nails. When you use hand sanitizer, you're not cleaning inside of your nails. So you're just getting the surface outside of your skin. So you're still bringing pathogens in. That's why it's always recommended to hand wash, because you are getting more, when you're doing this, you're getting more parts of your skin in your hands. That's why it's in the code. It's not necessarily, in my opinion, that's like, so, I mean, I know that's getting really technical, but I mean, it's true. I mean, if washing hands is, it's
In the
standard for
best of
everything.
all worlds, yes, but how many people do you think go under their fingernails? But let's not argue that. I mean, I get what
I'm
they,
not saying scrubbing under your fingernails, but just that it's, the movement is much more than when you're just doing it.
not what it says here. Anyway,
All right,
but
all
we're
right.
not gonna, yeah, I think that's silly. We probably
Well,
can't
it's just like when you
change
go,
the
when you go to a
code.
restaurant, if you're
We're
an
not
employee,
changing the
you're
code.
supposed to wash for 20 seconds. I mean, that's signed by every sink in every restaurant. I mean, so it really has to do with just repeated repeated action in theory, that an employee will wash for at least 20 seconds. I mean, that sign is in every restaurant on the roadway, because of, in theory, it's more efficient than the alcohol. People go and move on. So.
Jack has his hand up.
Yes, go ahead.
Sorry.
Oh, I think I just had my hand up. I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Were they clean?
Sorry about that.
Yes,
They
it's
are
washed.
clean, yeah.
I guess my
did.
last comment would be is Jack's Dogs is an outside cart, so he's not, bringing everything in from the porta potty into a food truck. I mean, I think that is a bit different, and his food is a little bit less hazardous. And he is equipped with a hand washing station on his cart.
Although at some point there was discussion of limiting the time of a food truck. So a food truck could be there for 2 hours and the employees can't leave it,
Well,
essentially.
yeah, I mean, send somebody to, if they need to use a bathroom, they go somewhere, they get picked up, taken to a bathroom and brought back or something. I mean, this seems silly, but
Yeah, because I mean, this is Long Island implications here, so we have to do this right.
You're talking about 24 trucks,
Yeah,
24 food trucks.
right.
I guess my comment would be is the cart's less impact than a bigger truck. I mean, it still is a food service, just
So, but is that a separate, so is the cart a separate animal then? I guess, in terms of what we're talking about, I don't think we're differentiating between carts or trucks. And if that is an issue, we may have to separate that out if that's a variance for X thing, but not Y. Is propane, Jack, I think, he mentioned he has a propane little powered hot water tank.
Yep.
Which seems a much more compact situation than a generator-powered hot water tank.
Right.
Is that something that we could mandate that if they're gonna, that they have to have propane, hot water mounted on the outs, accessible to the outside before they enter? And if they meet, can we identify guidelines they have to do in order to be able to be at the beaches where there are porta potties put by the town, but still we want to maintain the proper hygiene for food handling?
I mean, we can certainly look into that, yeah. And
I mean, we could do something that if you stay at a beach more than 2 hours, you have to have some method of washing your hands if you're a vendor.
Why
On
would
the
you have to
outside.
wait 2
Or you can't
hours?
use the porta potty.
Or you can use the porta potty. You're just going to have to stay there
You're
for,
just gonna have to suck it up.
I mean, I think there's an allowable time for a cart that's outside. I just think, day in, day out throughout the summer for, food prep and handling going on, the porta potty's not a permanent solution.
Our job is to take care of the health and
Yes.
welfare of the people of Nantucket. So
Yes.
those are the most important things of the people.
I don't disagree, but we have to sometimes be rational about this. My fellow board members, suggestions here.
Well, I would throw out, is there a set of regulations that we could design so that it could be met with reasonable expense by the part of the food? I want to put the responsibility on the vendor
Yes.
to have a system. And again, like Jacob said, it really has to be outside. It's not, go into the truck.
Right.
But if they take that responsibility and, I'm not sure if we would say that we have to approve a system or test it. Or if it's propane powered, we probably wouldn't worry about it too much, but, and those are relatively compact, and probably reality is in the course of a day, you wouldn't even use a little tank if you had a good system.
Right.
So it may not be a huge expense either, but it may protect, allows us to protect the food that is being handled by the employees. So kind of put it on the vendors to have the system in place in order to be able to get permitted to come to our work at the beaches.
If you're working in an area with porta potties,
With porta potties.
you have to have some means of washing outside.
Yeah.
Or you can only stay for 2 hours, something like that.
Yeah, I mean, we can, because we already did we've done the 2 hours already.
Yeah, but we
So-
could formalize it.
Yeah, formalize it and also provide guidance as to what, beyond 2 hours, this is what has to be in place.
I wonder if there would be a method, that there could be a van that goes around and every 2 hours and picks up. No, I'm serious.
Well, that would be up to the vendors to arrange that. yeah.
Exactly. But could they sort of get together and have a system
Well, that's
like
up to the
this
vendors.
and go around and pick up people and bring them back?
Sorry,
I don't know how we'd supervise that.
Mr. Chairman, Eleanor has her hand up.
Hello again. I hope you can hear me clearly. I just want to point out that if you do, or if you are inclined to approve things as you've been discussing the last few minutes, I would be happy to, it may already be in there, actually, I'm sure it is, but in our license agreements with the mobile food unit vendors, they have to be in full and total compliance with the local Board of Health and Health Department, regulations or rules, guidelines, etc. So if you guys want to put together something or give me some sort of an exhibit that I can attach to the license. I also am aware that some of the trucks actually have a sink for hand washing outside. I haven't seen these, but someone did mention that to me, that some of the mobile food unit trucks have an outside sink for hand washing. And that's all I would like to say. Thank you.
Okay, I think if we were going to do a guideline, I mean, the hand washing station should be right outside the bathroom. I think, for no matter if it's 1 minute or 2 hours. So,
Well, that's probably not,
I have one more question.
go ahead, one more and then we'll
Well,
wrap this up.
okay. Don't you think that the rest of the food trucks should have an interest in what's going on?
I would
here?
think so.
Mhm.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't think we can vote on anything till we get everybody in here so they understand, just because we decide what this one person's gonna do, that's gonna carry on to the other 23 food trucks on Nantucket, whether they like it or not.
Last word.
Sean Reed, Health Inspector. I just wanted to comment on the porta potties. I think the reason why porta potties aren't allowed to be used for a food establishment is because of the contaminants and particular particles in a porta potty. So when you use a porta potty and then go back into a food prep area, those contaminants are all over you and not just on your hands.
great.
So I just wanted to make that comment.
Thank you. We have one more comment, last words here. Yes, up to the microphone and just identify yourself.
Hi, how you doing? My name's John Keane. I own Keane Restaurant Group, Kitty's, Queequeg's Town. This seems a little bit silly right now in that food safety is the utmost importance. And from what I'm hearing, porta potties and washing hands does not comply with the code. That's my opinion.
Could you explain that?
Yeah,
Yes.
what do you mean?
Meaning, a person that's in a catering trailer, let's say, that is serving food, that does not have access to hot water and a hand sink, and cannot sanitize themselves properly, doesn't work.
Okay. Well, I'm getting the consensus of the board. We're not ready at this point to. Go ahead, sir.
There's lots of questions. And actually, what Mr. Kane had just said, I mean, it's almost like, and what Sean had brought out, that in some ways, the porta potty is a separate issue than the hand washing, because porta potty by design is not a bathroom.
No,
There you
it's
go.
not.
And that just by its nature, you are going, it's more than just your hands, you're in an environment that really is,
It's
it's a lot of particulate, there's a lot of stuff going on in there. And that if you use a porta potty, it's just washing your hands, a safe solution. I mean, that's and the last meeting we talked about using, having a trailer that had a real bathroom with real sinks. We've gotten away from that, but maybe that is really what we are asking for. So, I mean, I'm not sure if there's anything we're ready to act on stuff, because we've got several different questions going. And we definitely would need more guidance from the board, from the staff as to what could possibly work. And, like you say, have a rational solution that at least also allows vendors to be vending in places that we have lots of people over the summer, and that, that is something that's historically we've had that option at many of the beaches. So
I think what we've discovered is that it's a much bigger problem than we thought it was. We thought we were talking about Cisco. We are not talking about Cisco. We're talking about, what did we hear? There are 28 food trucks at
24.
at different beaches, many of which have porta potties. Some probably don't. But whatever, this is not about Cisco.
Right.
This is about what we're gonna do in terms of a public health standpoint
Absolutely.
for service of food in remote areas, so to speak.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. And certainly the consensus of I'm getting of the board president is we're not quite ready to move on this. Yes?
But what are we going to ask
I don't know.
people to do? Because this is
And we're getting close to the summer.
yeah.
Mr. Chairman, Eleanor had her hand up.
You just put a fine point on it. We are getting close to the summer. And from my standpoint, I normally have this wrapped up by now and licenses are being issued. That's not your problem. That's mine. But another thing I noticed in the code when I was reading it and trying to understand it was there is a provision in there for that mobile food units must have a brick and mortar bathroom along their route.
Oh.
So that's implying that mobile food unit trucks, like for instance, that are going from one construction site or one beach to another and are literally mobile throughout the day, you don't have to have a brick and mortar at the site where they're stopping for a certain period of time. So the other idea is we forego issuing licenses to up to 3 mobile food unit vendors as we have always done, thus guaranteeing to the Cisco beachgoers, options for food so they don't have to leave. But the beach would be, one of the 20, all these 28, 24 trucks could pass there at some point as long as they're passing by and not staying stationary.
Yeah. I'm coming back to this
2-hour.
limited time.
Mhm.
It's the easiest one. In other words, formalize what you've been doing to 2 hours.
So the truck stays for 2 hours or the employees stay for 2 hours, get transported to a proper bathroom and come back?
Or is that, the regulations you reference more like the roach coaches that go from site to site?
Yeah.
And so, along their route, they're supposed to be able to stop at a gas station or whatever and use a restroom and then go on to the next construction site or office building. Because that's not really moving the employees. That's the truck along its route has the ability to pass a place, that is a full bathroom.
Right, but
So,
We can't even consider voting on anything and pass something without the other 23 people that own these trucks even know what's going on. We need to get those people here. You can't just pass the thing and say, okay, and all of a sudden, we're talking about one beach right here. And we're not really talking about one beach, we're talking about 12 beaches or 15 beaches. Or
15 beaches,
24
26,
trucks.
Do we know who the trucks are? Do we know all
Oh,
the
yeah,
trucks?
they're all
We do.
licensed.
So we know which trucks are at the beaches.
Well, they need to be approved to where to park through the select board.
So we would be able to get in touch with them all and discuss this with them as
Well,
is every
as
beach,
Jim says?
does every beach have?
Just one more, I'll let you speak and then I want to wrap this up.
I represent 3 restaurants on this island, and we're held to a very high standard. And food safety is one of our big things. And I don't see how what you're discussing right now is going to create a safe environment for food safety with the inability for a person to wash their hands or have 145-degree water or anything else to sanitize themselves and serve the food properly. But you guys are discussing 23 trucks, and that's not my business.
Thank you for your comments. One more comment. then
Jack
we'll-
Decker has his hand up.
Then I have two questions. Let Jack go, and then I have a question.
Just real quick, I just wanted to add, in the past, the 2 hours has always worked just fine too. I mean, if that's something that we want to maybe move forward with again too, it's just let all the vendors or myself just operate for 2 hours at the beaches and then we leave. Like we did last year and years past. That's all.
Thank you. If we had a public hearing, we have to publish that how many days ahead?
It's supposed to be 2 weeks, but it might be 3 weeks
Yeah,
now, I think.
that's too long.
Thought something changed.
How many beaches do we have? I know we have lots of beaches, but how many beaches have food trucks at them? I know Nantucket doesn't, just because.
I think it's really just Cisco Beach, actually, to tell you. Let's see. Surfside, but that's a
Yeah,
concession
Surfside.
stand with bathrooms there. Yeah. Oh, they have a food truck, actually. Yep, sorry. But I believe it's just Cisco Beach. That's all
Not Dionis?
town, not Dionis.
No.
That's all select board and the town is allowed to
Sconset, anything in
air to
Sconset?
park. Sconset does burger night. Yeah.
So we're not really talking about all the beaches. We're talking about,
Well, my thought really was that if there were certain beaches that would the town consider putting the bathroom trailer at those beaches, those are the only beaches that could be served by food trucks. And if you're gonna be at that beach, there might be an extra fee that to help off, on the part of the vendor to offset the ability to have proper facilities on site.
Yeah.
that's that's not gonna happen by this summer.
How many, let's say you have 6 beaches and you have 2 trucks. How do you know which is a beach assigned to a certain food truck? Or is it first come, first serve, or?
They get permission from the property owner. In this case, it's the land bank that owns the Cisco
Okay, well,
Beach, so
who
they
owns
get.
all the rest of the beaches, the town?
Yep.
So
And,
they have to go to the town, and what is it, first come, first serve? They get a permit?
they'd get approval through select board to park
For-
there.
for
That's
that
how it's been.
beach?
Yes.
And
Yep.
then you have that beach all summer?
However, the select board approves it. Yeah. It's dependent on the property owner and what they're going to allow.
I think we're making this too complicated.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is complicated.
We're making it too complicated. Because we don't have that many beaches with potties, et cetera. I'm comfortable with more formalizing the concept of the 2-hour rule, at least to now, till we we really get our hands on this.
Okay. I mean,
I
we can try and develop something the same way we did with the variance for the 1 week with the, 55-gallon waste tank and everything that.
yeah, if you could, I mean, it can't be a regulation, because a regulation, we have to have public hearing, that's blah, 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 blah.
Right. Yeah. So those were guidelines previously that were voted on by the board.
And that would take us too far into the summers. So if we do it by beach, and
I gotta say one more thing.
one more thing, and then we're
Okay,
going,
I don't think we should vote on anything unless it is a regulation.
well, we have to have a public hearing for.
So we have a public hearing, so
Yeah.
what? You want to do it right, and you only.
Well,
wanna
we
do
can
it
have a
one
public
time.
hearing, it's just, we could for Cisco, they're asking for a variance, and since we could give them a variance as long as they understand there's a 2-hour limit, and then we could schedule a public hearing at appropriate time and really get,
They leave and then they come back, or they leave period after 2 hours?
they stay for 2 hours.
Yeah, they stay for 2 hours and they
And
leave.
someone
Yeah.
else takes their place?
Yeah. Each vendor would only be allowed there 2 hours. So I think as long as there's a hand washing station outside the porta potty,
You can stay
my
longer.
opinion is an outdoor you know, food cart, something not enclosed in this scenario is more acceptable.
The other thing is who's gonna check on to make sure they're only there 2 hours?
Exactly.
Right.
Nobody.
Just like I just,
So-
Well,
I just asked my daughter how many beaches have food trucks. You
They
guys
can
said
submit a
not,
schedule
you know,
to
She
us.
said a bunch. So.
But they don't necessarily have
have
porta
porta
potties.
Well, that was the, yeah, anyway, I think it's very murky. This is gonna be really hard to,
Well, every regulation, every procedure we have on this island is difficult to enforce, period. All right.
You know, again, usually the simplest solution is to, if you add regulation, everyone's got to comply to stop the variance issue. If we talk about, you know, it's like make the regulations fit the problem and check, you know, you check that out. So a vendor would get checked to see, do they have a functioning hand washing station rather than we having to go around and check all summer. I mean, you kind of, you front load the regulations and the inspections and to try to minimize all the variabilities that come after it. That's a perfect world. But
Okay, all right. So what we're going to do is, first of all, we have to deal on the variance for Cisco. And we'll do that. But we'd schedule a public hearing. Well, we can't have a public hearing unless we have got regulations to review at that public hearing.
Yeah, it's written, yeah, which, I mean,
So why don't we talk next week?
okay.
And then we deal with the variance of Cisco now and move on with the agenda. All right? So does anyone want to make a motion?
So what's the motion gonna be?
yeah, I don't know what to
yeah,
do.
Well, the motion would be essentially what they requested was a variance from the regulation. And they said,
right. And the thing is, we didn't get the paperwork on that at the last meeting. So we were just going by, yeah, again, there was no, we didn't have any documentation I can't refer back to because it was something that was on the agenda, but we didn't have documentation. So exactly what the variance is, I don't
either.
remember all the
What
details. I
would
don't
be
have
the
anything to go
exact
to.
variance? I hate to put this off another month.
Yeah, the variance would be to have a chemical toilet in place of a permanent bath
Now,
facility.
this
that's
isn't
easily washable,
acceptable. I
but-
can't.
Yeah,
This-
and you
this is
can't
not
give a
acceptable.
variance to somebody, something that's unsafe. If it's unsafe for one, it's unsafe for all, right?
And Malcolm,
You can't,
if you vote,
I don't have anything to
no,
vote
but
on.
all I'm saying is, if you vote to give them a variance, you voted to give everybody a variance. Because you
Yeah.
give it to one, you gotta.
I know,
give it to
that's our,
Exactly,
that's why
exactly.
And exactly
I
what the
don't-
variance is, we're
I
not
don't
even
wanna
sure.
vote on anything.
I don't know what the variance is.
I can tell you if you,
Okay, let her.
Go
I'm
ahead.
sorry, I did submit the information and some of it got to Heather late, but I did submit it before your meeting and somehow it never got to you. So I'm sorry for that. I did submit it. But the variance I was asking for at the time for the first hearing was specifically from, as far as I'm understanding the code, okay? So I'm going to caveat that with, I kind of was asking for a variance from a couple of different things, but the code is 590. Toilet and hand washing facilities must be available for all MFE employees along their route of service. Or the toilet facilities must be conveniently located to the food preparation and ware washing areas. And then so that's one thing from 105 CMR 590. And then there's something to do with hand washing facilities. That's another subsection of 105 CMR 590 that is, they shall be equipped with to provide potable water at a minimum temperature of at least 100 degrees Fahrenheit through a mixing valve or combination faucet. They must be provided at all toilet facilities used by food employees. They have to have suitable hand cleaner, etc. So these are all subsections of CMR 590, Food Code 105, CMR 590. I can share documented.
Well,
to you.
we should have had it. I can't.
I sent it. I don't know what.
Wasn't last month either.
Malcolm, whatever it should be something that this board can live with,
Yeah, I know, but we don't,
not what they can live with.
I don't disagree.
No, I don't, yeah, that's.
I mean, my problem is I don't have a packet to read.
Yeah, and it wasn't in the last packet, so we don't even have that to go back to.
So let's just, what's the big hurry? Why do we have to do something today?
Well, I'm not a-
Let's have a public meeting. Let's bring the rest of the trucks in here. Hey, what everybody wants to say, then they can't say we did something behind their back.
Well, I mean, it would seem that we're not really, well, if we can do one thing, we can say continue it because we really are, want to sort the issue out more, especially given that we're not sure possibly what we'd even be approving. We could deny it and just say everyone's got to start over, with, and then using a public regulations forum to hopefully get something up and running, but that would be the April meeting. And, our time frame is very tight for this summer. So I think it's, is there a pathway we can figure out that would allow the summer to run clearly, with people knowing what they got to do and what they can't do?
Do you have an idea, John?
That'd be
No, I mean,
tight. So yeah, the local
Department of Health should
variance
say.
would also, sorry.
No,
be
I was
from-
just saying the Department of Health really should weigh in on this in terms of what you think is possible.
So the local regulation it's chapter 265 for toilet facilities for a food establishment. This was adopted in 1982. But it's no privy or chemical toilet may be constructed or used. So that's under food establishments, as far as toilet facilities are concerned. So, yeah,
Is
of
there
course, that's
anything
before mobile
about,
units.
a catering? I mean, I can see something like this at a wedding where you're using a tent out in a field or something like that. There's nothing in the regulations about that?
Well, not, I mean, those are more temporary, I think this is a daily scenario. So it's a permanent scenario. It's not a temporary event or anything. So I think we'd really like to see a permanent solution, which would be a regular bathroom. I guess, that's really where we stand. So I don't know if the land bank has plans in the future for facilities out there or not, but, maybe we can bring this back to next meeting next month and have some more discussions with the land bank.
Oh, I hate to put things off, but I don't have anything, I don't have that written variance.
I don't know why it wasn't included in your packet. I sent it to Heather and Roberto on the 9th of February. The end of the day on Friday, I'm looking at my email. It went through. So I don't know why you never got it for the first meeting. I don't know why you don't have it for this meeting. I didn't think I needed to send it again. My apologies. I guess I should have said something.
But I still think we can't work on Cisco without dealing with all the others.
Yeah.
So it has become a much bigger problem.
Yeah, but again, to work on all the others is going to take 6 weeks, 5
It'll-
weeks.
Yeah, it'll take a little while.
We'd have to schedule a public hearing.
Yep,
If we have regulations,
that would need to be,
or we'd have to take each individual one individually.
which
If they
is,
wanted
yeah,
a variance.
which is
from-
the other option. And to be honest, I mean, Cisco, I believe, is the only beach where mobile's parked beside Surfside, which is, that mobile's owned by the same person that runs the concession stand at Surfside Beach with those bathrooms there. So, again, yeah, I believe Cisco's the only beach we'd really be actually talking about.
All right. So we're going to, you have two options, vote on, no, I'm not gonna vote on the variance. I
don't know
don't know
what
what the
we're
hell
voting
it
for.
is. I haven't, I wanna read it. So we have to continue this, that upsets me. Yes?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just looking at the minutes from this, because at least there were good minutes from the last meeting. And just looking at the discussion and
Yeah.
pretty much it, Roberto had mentioned that the possibility of combining an upgraded portable toilet with sinks. I mean, that would be the solution. That would end discussion.
Mhm.
It would,
Mhm.
that would just be it. And I know there were concerns of, the land bank had expressed concerns about, well, can the public use it, not use it? I mean, that
Yes.
is somewhat separate, but that would solve the problem. Whether it's put there by the vendor, whether it's put there by the town, I mean, I'm not saying who does it, but that would solve that
So-
particular issue at Cisco.
That's a good point.
So we can just say that's the way it's gonna be, and then whoever figures it out to put that portable toilet there is their responsibility, not ours.
And, the portable toilet, meaning the, kind of like the trailer type.
Yeah, the trailer.
Yeah.
So we're gonna say it has to be a portable toilet with sink. And
We may want to, define, so that we wanted to find it enough so that it's not a porta potty with a sink on the outside, is it, that it really has to be a true toilet system, not a chemical based, or not a, this is where you guys gotta help. That, whatever the toilet systems like they have at Dreamland, at the drive-in, that big thing, how is that defined differently than a porta potty? Yeah.
If you want to talk, Jake, I'd say it's more easily cleanable and.
Well, but
not
there's got to be
with
something more
running
than
water.
just, that it has
and where
tile.
does the water come from?
At the Dreamland, what do you, sorry,
Well, so what's the different, how would you define the difference, almost like from a regulatory point of view, to say, the porta potty and these bathrooms, so if we said that's what we want, is that contained bathroom, how is that described so it's not a porta potty and a sink?
yeah, it's running water, hot water, all that,
Okay, so,
easily cleanable, all that stuff.
okay. I mean,
Plumbed.
All right.
Hey, guys, quick question.
No, we're gonna resolve this.
I think it should be resolved, and the one issue that I have is that we're talking about bathroom facilities as against cooking facilities and staffing, and how food does not become contaminated.
Yeah,
Yes.
right,
we
exactly, we
agree.
get it.
And it doesn't make sense that a food truck that doesn't have a bathroom can comply.
I think you're correct.
yeah, and I think that's actually where we're kind of
I think
circling
that's where
around.
we
the
are.
thing is, if you're gonna wash your hands, you have to have hot water and cold water. You have to have
Well,
hot water. You can't wash your hands with cold water.
We can talk about this forever. So the solution is we have to deal with Cisco right now. And they essentially go back to what the health department recommended before. And if Cisco and the land bank can't meet that regulation, then they can't meet that regulation. They can't have trucks. Is that what we're saying?
Right now, yeah, the way it stands, that's it. If they can't meet the regulations that they want, then they can't meet it.
Okay, fine. We
Uh,
tried.
Mr. Chairman, Eleanor has her hand up. I don't-
Last comment, then we're going to move on.
No, I didn't mean to have my hand up. I think I've said everything I can say. Thank you.
Okay.
Do we need to do something? Like,
Well, we can make a motion to deny the variance. And everyone knows what they would have to do to comply with the regulations, which is to have, as suggested, the appropriate,
by the Department of Health.
yeah.
You making that motion? You want me to make that?
I think we should make that motion. Listen, I apologize for wandering off like this. I've been trying to find a solution. And I guess after all this discussion, there is no
So
good
I'll
solution.
make a motion to deny if they can't meet the regulations that the health department
Well,
puts forward.
you would make a motion to deny their
Yeah.
variance
Yes.
request.
I make a motion to deny the variance.
I second it.
Any further discussion?
I still think it has to, in this motion, has to be something about, but if they can comply with the Department of Health, or they need to,
No,
we
they,
don't have to have that in there?
We don't have to
No,
have that
okay,
in there.
And the
all right,
implication
all right.
is you
Okay.
gotta
because if they
comply.
comply with the Department of Health, they don't need a
Okay.
variance.
And they don't gotta
fine.
come to us.
Yeah, good, okay.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Chairman votes aye. Variance is denied.
Thank you.
Okay, and
But what do we do with all the others? The 23 others?
No, it seems as though this is an issue we may not get ahead of it for the
Not
summer,
today, we're not
but
gonna do it,
it
but
is something
is.
that needs to be sorted out.
Yeah.
So that,
well,
but not
I
today.
don't want to, if we have a public hearing,
Mhm.
we have to have something to that public hearing to
Yeah.
really discuss. And I'm afraid it'll just go around like this. for-
Yeah, you would have to have a regulation.
So, and I appreciate we need the others, but we almost have to deal with them individually because we don't have, the only regulation we have is the regulation on the book.
Yeah.
And to put a different regulation on the book
We have
would
to go
require
the process.
2
Let me
months.
ask you a question.
Mhm.
Do all the other trucks understand the regulations that you have?
Yeah.
They should know what it is.
When they're approved to park somewhere or where we know
Then
that
we
they
don't
are
have to do
parked, yeah.
anything, because they know what the
Yeah, we don't have
regulation
to
is
do
now.
anything.
Yeah.
And I'm not pleased with my performance in this. I think I could have done it better, but I really tried hard to find some middle ground and some solution. And
Sometimes we gotta.
I think we're stuck. All right, now. Kitty's is up now, finally. I appreciate your patience. So we have a variance request for an installation of floor drain from Kitty's.
Good evening, members.
And Vince,
My
hang
name
in
is
there.
John Keane. I represent Kitty's and Keane Restaurant Group. I get very nervous at these kind of meetings.
Sir, so do I, so don't worry about it.
So we provided a plan, and Kitty's, by history, are just to move backwards a little bit. We do Meals on Wheels, the Salt Marsh Center, the Warming Center. We do about 150 meals a day, every day before we open our doors for business. We are also governed as a result of doing the Meals on Wheels by the state health department. And John over there, Jake, Sean that just left, all know me well. We're not trying to play around. We want, our existing kitchen is about 400 square feet and it has 6 floor drains in it. And I need to expand in order to be able to accommodate everything we do. And I'd like to add about 100 square feet. And we were requested to put a hand sink wash station in that station, which we've agreed to do, which is easy to do. But the problem is putting a floor drain in that last 100 square feet is impractical, problematic, and would probably cause us to close down for 2 weeks from what my contractors tell me. And I don't see how it can get done. So I'm a little bit confused, a little bit about the fact that if we already have, I've more than 50% of the required floor drains in the space. So by adding an extra 100 square feet, I don't see why I need to be required to put a floor drain down. But now, Jake, come on, you get over.
Excuse me, sir, you said you had more drains than you needed, or?
Yes,
Or
I've got
required?
50% more floor drains than I require for the square footage per code.
Okay.
All right, I have a couple of questions. I've been in the plumbing business since 1966. Did you take a permit out for this job?
Yes, and this is where
Did
it
the
kind
plumbing
of,
inspector say, when you did this job, you needed a floor drain? I'm just asking the question. Did the plumbing inspector say, when he inspected this job or saw the plans, that you needed a floor drain?
things went south.
Yes or no?
Things went south. We applied with a full package to the building department and were issued a permit to move forward. And somehow it didn't make it to the health department. And then the health department turned around and put their hands up and said, hey, we need to consider this.
Did the plumbing inspector inspect this job? And if he inspected the job, did he say you needed a floor drain? And if he inspected the job and said, you need a floor drain, then you need a floor drain. I don't care if you had 20
We were issued a
others all
building.
over, and if you have more floor drains than you need, if he said you need a floor drain here in this position, you need a floor drain. It's a very simple thing, and it's not anything that we can't take the plumbing code and change the plumbing code. The plumbing code says that if you need a floor drain and you took a permit out and you had a drawing and the plumbing inspector inspected it and said you need a floor drain, you got to put a floor drain in.
The plumbing inspector did not say that I have to put a floor drain in. We were issued a building permit with full sets of plans. And we proceeded on that precedence to add basically 108 square feet. Like, we're not talking a big room, 10 by 11.
Well, let me ask you, if he said you didn't need a floor drain, what's the problem?
It's the health department.
Huh?
The health department came in after the fact because when we dropped our package off to the building department, it didn't trickle down to the health department in order for them to decide whether or not what was going on.
Yes.
I felt like I was doing everything as legitimately as I possibly could, relied on good faith that I got a building permit and approval to move forward from the building department.
So it's a health department issue, not a.
No, it's not a health department issue.
Well, it was
No.
originally a health.
No, the health department can't tell you you need draining or not.
John?
All I'm saying is, this, you gotta take a permit out for a plumbing permit. If you took a plumbing permit out and you did the job cannot be completed until it's inspected by the plumbing inspector. And I asked you a simple question. Did the plumbing inspector say you needed a floor drain? Yes or no? Did they sign off on the job?
No, because we didn't have any plumbing in the expansion area. So I didn't have to pull a plumbing permit.
Right.
So,
John?
I can begin summarizing
Yeah,
from the start here.
summarize this,
So,
please.
so first off, any food establishment, the health department permits. So it's the responsibility of the food establishment to come to the health department to notify us that they're doing work, renovating their kitchen.
Right.
If they're changing their flooring, they should let us know. So what happened is they added, if you look on the screen here, this area, which is called the chicken shack. So this is the area of expansion of the kitchen. And it's going to be, there's a fryer, a couple of fryers in here, I believe. It's a cook line. And anytime you have a cook line, you should have a floor drain in here. There's one that's in the main kitchen already on their cook line, as well as by the ware-washing station, which is also required. So any area that's subject to flush washing needs to have a floor drain, and this is a cook area, and it should have a floor drain.
Has the construction been done yet?
We're 50% through construction. All the walls and partitions are built and everything else. But it's raw floor, but it's poured concrete on slab. And for me to break through from that area to the grease trap in order to put a floor drain in that will feed it will cost us about 2 weeks in time, great expense. And the thing is, we already have more than enough floor drains in the room.
Any other questions?
I guess I keep the deja vu that we end up with other departments not addressing stuff properly, and we're told to clean it up.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah, I think we've had this discussion before. And I guess, the issue of, that you have more drains, the thing is that in that particular area, that's an area that would be, I think from what John has said, it would be coded to have, by code, should have a drain because it's an active cooking area. Or will be an active cooking area when the work's done. So, and I'm assuming that's a health and safety issue.
Should have been done earlier.
Yeah.
I mean, if it,
Yes.
if there was a floor drain somewhere that was placed, and so this is kind of like a wall right here. And then I haven't been in since the renovation, but previous inspections, I know this is a wall and a service station. And so this is quite separated in my opinion, but if there's a floor drain somewhere in this vicinity that they can
You'd be happy,
install,
but there is.
that would work. Correct.
Any motions?
Well, you said needs a floor drain, and he says he doesn't.
Well, he's applying for a variance not to install one.
And the thing is, I'm
just
5
come-
feet.
I only have one question. Was the plumbing job signed off by the plumbing inspector?
We didn't have to pull a plumbing
Excuse
permit.
me?
We made an application to the building department.
No, did you get a plumbing
They
permit?
didn't have a plumber.
No, because we weren't
There was
doing
no
any
They
plumbing.
plumbing.
didn't have a
done.
plumber.
Well,
There was no plumbing to do.
was there a
Floor
hand?
drain is a plumbing.
They
Yeah,
didn't
but there
think
was-
they needed a floor drain.
Yeah.
I relied on the fact that I moved forward on an investment in my business on the fact that I had a building permit from the building inspector. We weren't doing plumbing. All we were doing is expanding the kitchen by 100 square feet.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem to make sense.
Yeah, and the problem is there was, again, is there some kind of relationship when something like this is happening, a kitchen, that the health department reviews it as well early on?
Yeah, I mean, any changes to a kitchen needs to be reviewed by the health department. I
But
mean,
it should have been almost reviewed before he started work.
Yeah,
That's this is why we're last meeting.
Which it didn't happen, and we applied with a full package to the building
Yeah.
department, including floor plans, kitchen items, full descriptions, and I would have thought that would have trickled down to the other departments,
Well,
which it didn't.
apparently didn't, and that's unfortunate.
Were plans drawn, who drew up the plans? I mean, was that done by an architect, or was that, could you do it inside and,
It was done with an architect and myself.
Yep. It was the system has failed you, sir.
It seems like it has, and that's why I'm kind of caught in a quandary of now I've gone 50% on the construction, but I can't move forward.
Yes. So then, how do we fix this from a bureaucratic system? Before we get into it, I mean, is there?
Well, I mean, we're the health department. That's a food establishment. We permit food establishments.
Right.
So if you're going to make a change to your food establishment, you should come seek the, approval of the health department
They
first
should've-
before you make any moves.
They should have gone to
They
you,
should have
but
known.
somebody when they saw that, should have sent it to you.
Yes, correct. Well,
Yes. All right.
it'd be nice. It's, ultimately up to of course, the owner of the establishment to follow
It
through
is
with
the owner of
that,
the establishment, but just out of courtesy, you would think that they would say, oh, this is a restaurant. Let's let the health department take a look at it.
Right. I'd hope we could work together in that manner, of course.
Maybe you
Yes,
should
absolutely.
just mention this in your meetings with other departments.
Right. Yep. We certainly can.
Would be helpful.
Yep.
How long have you known there was a problem?
Well, I know this plan was talked about maybe even last summer to expand or something. So I think during inspections, I think Jake was inspecting and said, okay, we always say you need to submit an application or come talk to us. So I think that's where everything came to light at that point. And then things started happening and it was kind of, well, you still haven't submitted an application to us. You really need to submit an application to us.
But how long have you all known there should have been a drain?
A few months.
Oh, see,
Right.
okay,
Okay.
How long?
a few months.
It should come to us earlier.
Well, I think it should have just been done.
Should have just been done. All right, motion from somebody for this variance. No one? Any motion to approve or
Can
deny?
I ask one question? The floor drains are connected to the grease trap or
Yes.
so?
Yes, they're connected to the grease trap, which means that in order for me to put another floor drain in, I gotta get some construction guys in there, jack the floor out. It's concrete poured slab. It's not a second story where I can just
Right, you're
put
the
a pipe
basement.
under it.
Yeah.
I gotta dig the basement out of the restaurant in order to put it in.
Okay, maybe this is really out of line, but 50% done. Is there any way to flip things around so that the cooking was near that drain? I mean, do some juggling so that the cooking area that we're talking about by the Chicken Shack sign, I mean, that's the area in question. Is there a way to reorganize the plan so that would access this drain, you'll be in the proximity of that drain there, and would then maybe not be an issue?
If you look at the plan, between the Chicken Shack, what's defined as the Chicken Shack, it's just a stupid statement.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
It's 100 square feet. And there's a 42-inch wide door passageway that connects the two spaces.
Mhm.
I mean, we've already, as I said, we've got 50% more than what we're required to have for floor drains. for the square footage that we have. And it's
Yeah, but I think the
this
critical
is a
issue
10
there
by
is,
10 room.
Yeah.
I mean, like,
Right.
well, the critical issue is that the floor drain needs to be near that cooking area where when you have extras, but they're all, they're in good places, then you have a couple extras that, so my thing is like, is there any way to juggle the plans before you get, and just to move that cooking area closer to that drain that's over by the 3-bay and the dishwashing area? And that way you don't gotta dig up. I mean, it'd be a minor inconvenience compared to digging and, cracking the floor and having to run.
how about this? Just a, you're catching me off guard, but how about this? I open the entire wall between the two kitchens, and I do a back-to-back
And-
line.
Okay, and then what I would hope then is, have the plumbing department review that change.
Well,
It's
health
not the
department.
plumbing
But-
department.
But I guess, someone's got to look at the plans, who knows plans. I mean, you're throwing suggestions out, and I am not know all the code, but it would seem that if there's a cooking area and there has to be a drain near the cooking area, if that can be done, and to have that looked at before we actually tell them, okay, yeah, go ahead, make this change and do it. And when someone who knows something, whether it's inspectors, plumbing department, I don't care who, but someone who knows and says, yeah, that meets the code. That's a change that we, would meet the code, and you'd be able to go on.
Would that meet the code?
I'd need to see a drawing of that.
Yeah,
I mean,
there has
sorry.
to be, you have to see
know,
what it is. I mean,
Yeah, I can't.
But it's just that there is a drain not far away. Is there a way he can juggle, before all the work is done, and make some minor changes to get that cooking area by that existing drain, and take away, and then shift other stuff that doesn't require drainage into this other area? So that's what I'm throwing out there is, maybe there is.
I don't know at this point. At this point, I'll go with the flow. Either I'm opening it or I'm not opening it. And that's the plain and simple of it. It's kind of like, I don't want, like, John is a friend of mine, Jake is a friend of mine, Sean that just left is a friend of mine, Caddy down there is a friend of mine.
I hope we're all friends. So I guess
I've been in the food industry all my life.
the options are that we just,
I'm just stuck.
I know, vote on the variance. But if we don't vote on the variance and give you an opportunity to relook at the plans, that will delay time.
Delay stuff. I know.
But apparently we've already known that this was an issue for several months.
Yeah, so
it
I would
seems to
just,
me that the,
and my
But-
friend is
But
suggesting.
just to say, since it was brought to my recognition that it was a problem, I did submit plans to the health department. And the one thing that they recognized was the fact that there was a floor drain required. I already feel that I have sufficient floor drains.
I understand. We often, so my colleagues offering an option here, we could vote on your variance. And if it's denied, then you're going to have to drill a hole. And you're saying you just as soon as vote instead of you relooking at the plans, because that will delay things even more.
I'm sorry, I'm hard of hearing.
So am I.
I heard something about a vote
Well,
and colleagues.
yeah, so if we were to deny it, you would then have to be faced with, doing the floor, putting the floor drain in.
Yeah.
If we, I guess, say a continuance, just say to give you time to see if you can just redo the plan so that that cooking area is by the existing floor drain, and then, nothing has to happen.
I think.
Yeah,
Yes.
you have to click the meeting recorded.
at this point, I'm kind of like a little bit burnt with this whole situation. And either I'm just going to make it a storage room and not expand my kitchen and possibly decrease the amount of productivity that I got to put out of my kitchen, which means I'll probably lose Meals on Wheels. And I don't know anybody I've had Meals on Wheels, 120, 150 people every day for 15 years. The hospital gave it up and nobody else would take it. They begged me to take it. I'm at this stage of either expanding or shrinking, and something's got to give. And this really seems silly about a floor drain when there's a floor drain 6 feet away from where the next floor drain needs to be.
Okay.
Is there any way you could fix it later on, after the season?
Kitty's only closes for 3 days of the year.
They're busy all the time.
For 22 years, it only closes 3 days of the year. And even in the 3 days that were closed, we still provide Meals on Wheels, Salt Marsh Center, Warming Center. Like, it's a full functional establishment. This is not something that closes down for 2 months. If it was something that closed down for 2 months, I'd be more than happy to do it. But I just don't have a window of time to do it.
Okay, so we could vote on this. We could say, you don't seem like you're willing to look at other plans. So we just have to vote on the variance.
I would
Trying
just
again like the
appreciate a
last
vote.
time, trying to find a way through this, which isn't always easy.
I'm not trying to drag this out, and would not like to have to come back next month for another meeting. It's kind of like either can I do it or can I not?
Well, I think what we're proposing is that if you actually were able to relocate stuff, there's no reason for a variance. So you don't have to come back. To show the plans to the health department saying, you know, we moved this cooking area over 3 or 4 feet to be near this drain. And at that point, there's no need for a variance. So it'd just be submitting the plans for approval of the Board of Health, and variance is out of the question. It isn't needed. And that's kind of what we're trying to see if we can steer it that way, rather than, you know, saying, well, we deny it, then you've got an investment in, it's just going to turn into a storage space. You're losing a little bit of capacity, where if there was some flexibility in moving that area close within the code requirements to that existing drain, because it really doesn't look like it's that far away already.
So you would need a variance, it's done.
Yeah, you wouldn't need a variance. You wouldn't have to come back to us. You would just sit there and say, John, your boarding department, we redrew the plans. This is over here now, and the drain's right there. We're done.
And I'm sure John, I don't want to speak for John, but given the fact that there was some bureaucratic delays, and he would, expedite the review of those plans if you were to resend them.
The issue is the existing kitchen is about 300 square feet, which is smaller than your counter right now. And I'm asking to add 100 more square feet to that space. And as I said, I've got double the amount of floor drains that are required for that space per code, per Massachusetts. And I'm governed by the state health inspector who comes out to me 3-4 times a year because we do Meals on Wheels. I'm in compliance.
right now, but if they come out, if you go ahead and we approve this variance and they say, well, that's out of variance for us, because that's a state code, will you, is there a
I'm
down the
still in
road?
compliance. I'm
Yeah.
still in compliance because I meet the requirement.
Would you still meet the state code without that drain?
So if down the road, so we approve it, let's say, and the state, for the Meals on Wheels people come through 3 months from now, and they say, well, you got a cooking area, but the code says there has to be a floor drain there.
I'll still meet compliance. I already know that.
John, can you comment on that?
I'd have to speak with the state on that, the Department of Public Health. That's who oversees the Meals on Wheels. Again, I see a renovation and I see a cooking area, and what I know of the kitchen, there's walls there. You know, and you don't flush water around a doorway.
My concern would be that down the road, the state's going to sit there and say that that's not compliant. And that's, so we'd be putting, if we accept the variance, are we putting you in jeopardy with the state? Because they'll come through and inspect and say, well, there's a new cooking area here and there's no floor drain. And
I've already spoke with the state about it. And they've reviewed some plans, and the general consensus is that they are fine with it the way it is, because I already meet compliance of the food safety issue about having floor drains in the floors, because in 300 square feet, I have 6 floor drains, and I'm only required to have 3.
All right, let's move on. I read a motion one way or another. No one wants to make a motion?
you gotta do something.
Gary, no?
Yeah, honestly, I mean, as much as I would love to say yes, I think that if we approve it, we're potentially setting them up for the state to come in on them. And also, it is code, and the town, somewhere in our system, we did that screw up again, where we were the last people and an error was made somewhere down the line and we're supposed to fix it. We're averaging, I think, one error a meeting now.
Yeah.
So I would love to say we should approve it, but I have lots of problems with this.
Can I ask one more question, please?
Yes.
John, how far does a floor drain have to be away from a cook prep area?
I mean, it needs to be in a reasonable spot that, in an area, a cook area that's going to be subject to flush washing. I mean, we could have the plumbing inspector
would
look at it, but
would 8 feet be unrealistic?
Well, as long as it's a clear, unobstructed path to it, then I would say it's, yeah.
Well, that's what I have. I have a clear, unobstructed path, and I'm less than 8 feet away from the nearest floor drain.
Based on the floor plan, and what I know of the kitchen, you'd have walls in between there.
There's a 42-inch door walkway. Like it's a bump out of a kitchen. See that door over there? It's that. It's a bump out.
But again, the code doesn't
Well, I mean,
flush washing is not through doorways.
To me, you're walking through one room into another room,
Right.
like around a corner where that floor drain is by the 3-bay sink area, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, if it was located more towards that hallway area, in towards the chicken shack, I mean, that would be, you know, acceptable. I'd have to see that on a plan to.
Would you be willing, if we just kind of do nothing right now, would you be willing to go to the plumbing department and ask them to look at these plans and how can you make them compliant without ripping the floor up? And it might just be moving, I mean, we could do nothing right now. And if you get over there and ask them, it's like, here's my plans, this is the problem. How do I make it using my existing, existing drains? How can I make this cooking area compliant so that we don't have to have a variance and we can just finish the job and get the kitchen done and fully operating?
I'm more than happy to do anything that I have to do to get it done,
Fine.
except for the fact that it's not a plumbing department's,
No, it's John. So I think,
it's the health department issue,
Yeah,
not a plumbing department issue.
I think you're right. So you're willing to do what we need to do. So if we
Deny it.
postpone this and you go see John and John will get to this right away and see if there's a way to rearrange things to meet John's request. So do I have a motion for continuance with the idea that you will meet with John next week?
I could have done that 2 months ago.
Oh,
I'm not being, I'm not trying to be
oh,
smart.
I know, but we
I
didn't
don't want
know.
to be smart. I
Yeah, we
just
didn't
want-
know about it though
I
till
just
now,
want
and
to
that's the
move it
problem.
along. I mean, Vince over there is yawning, so let us go.
So, I mean, so
You're
I'd
gonna
make
make
a
that
motion for continuance
Right.
and with the hope that they can meet and resolve
Right,
the issue.
by moving
without variance.
taking the door out or something simple
Just-
like that.
Yeah.
Do I have a second?
Second, yeah.
All in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
Aye. We are continuing this and encouraging the two
meet with Tom.
parties to
And-
get together. I think we've done this before.
Members of the board, thank you for your help. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
And
Okay,
John, I'll
Vince.
see you tomorrow.
Okay, thanks, John.
So let me, discussion of possible tight tank district regulations for Baxter Road. Now, this was brought up by, at one of my select board meetings, when we were going through the usual agonizing discussions on Baxter Road, because at some point, there's a high probability that Baxter Road is going to have to be moved, which means you're going to have to move utilities, and this may come rapidly, and we may have to do things quickly. And they wanted to assure, Don wanted to make sure that the Board of Health was in tune with the plans, because it's and whether in the process of the movement, et cetera, could we use tight tanks to help the process?
Good evening, Board. Vince Murphy with the Natural Resources Department. I have the joyous task of looking after a few of the Baxter Road projects. I'm just going to reframe this ever so slightly. Malcolm was spot on, but I just got to divide out two projects that are extremely heavily linked. So we have the Baxter Road Alternative Access Project. This is kind of a retreat plan to get people vehicle access, road access, water and sewer to their properties. This is a long-term plan, but it takes time to develop the plan. At the moment, we're at about 90% design, and then we have to go into the finished design, go into the permitting phases, get funding. It'll take time. So in the interim, we're looking at I'll just finish the previous part. We're looking at a good few years. If all went according to plan and we managed to get permitting done and we managed to get some idea of the enormous costs and get funding for all of that, we're at best July 2025. In reality, probably add 2 or 3 years. most likely. So it would be a few years before we can get to the alternative access project. So because there's such dramatic erosion in the area, there's a few spots where it's 36 feet from the edge of the bluff to the edge of the road. Malcolm is tired of me saying it, but it's still a reality. I'm sorry, Malcolm, but it's a
No,
really,
that's fine.
it worries me a lot. So long story short, we're looking at a potential breach that might happen before we do the construction. So I like to talk about resilience, and a good prudent thing to do in resilience is have a plan, which is the alternative access plan, and a backup plan, which is what we're calling the emergency readiness plan. And this is an interim plan, a short-term plan that if we needed it, it sits on a shelf the day we need it, hopefully never need it, to be honest, because that means we have a very serious problem, but have this plan in place that we could do very simple things to potentially keep some amount of access, some amount of use of these homes in place. This would get only walking access for residents from the Palpas Road to their properties, and it might, not promising, just might, get people potable water, and also might get them some sewage facilities so that the homes could remain usable. So that's where we stand, just on the emergency readiness plan, not the long-term alternative access plan. So just the interim short plan, that's what I'm here to ask for some guidance on tonight, please. So here's a question. What's the pleasure of the board? If there is a dramatic event, Baxter Road breaches, and we have to look at what to do for the neighbours in this area, we have the emergency readiness plan quite well drafted, and Malcolm rightly so brought up at a select board meeting just a little over 2 weeks ago that, well, would we do above ground tight tanks, or would it be a case that, well, potentially we wouldn't, and then instead look at possibly suspending or revoking this, I'm probably going to say the wrong term, the certificates of occupancy, the habitancy of the homes, and what would happen then? So it's probably a safer option in some ways, but also people do have rights to get access to their home. So it's a question, would short-term, temporary, couple of weeks, months worth of tight tanks be allowed to sit somewhere on the ground with above ground pipes in place to do some pumping? You would also have to have some very limited amount of vehicle access, because any above ground tight tanks will have to be pumped. So that is just the considerations. It would be a very short-term temporary access, because when you think about it, if we got into this dreadful situation whereby we would need to activate the interim plan, the emergency readiness plan, that would increase the requirements to get the alternative access plan going. So then we could access state funds under emergency provisions and get that permitted and constructed a bit faster. So it would be more of a short-term request that would you allow, or sorry, question, would the board be interested in allowing temporary above ground tight tanks, or would you prefer that the plan says something to the effect of we would not allow the homes to be inhabited until these services are restored correctly? There you have it.
Good question. Of course, for tight tanks, we still need state approval.
We don't need state approval for that.
For that, we wouldn't need state approval.
Right, yeah. They're always by a variance through the board, I believe. Geez, I gotta check. The tight tanks that they're discussing, I don't, minimum size of a tight tank is 1,500 or 2,000. I mean, above ground tight, I mean, if there's a crack in a tank or any, I mean, that's
You're talking
pretty
about 500
unsanitary.
gallons?
Oh, at
1,000
least,
gallons?
yeah, at least. I mean, by Title V, the minimum is, geez, on the spot, I'm sorry. I think it's 2,000 is the minimum size.
How many tanks are they talking about?
One for each house, right?
And there's approximately 20.
One for each house?
I should think so, unless a couple of neighbors could share, but we're talking an emergency situation, so maybe that might be allowed or it might happen. But there's about, depending on where the breach might be, upwards at worst. It could be 10, it could be 22. So at most there's 22 buildings that might need service.
And they're not gravity that will be pumped?
Good question, don't know, because it depends where on each site it will go. and there's quite a slope on each site. As it stands on the very north end of Baxter Road, there's only about 4 or 5 homes, I think it's 5 homes, that have what's it called, the grinder pumps that pump up to Baxter Road. Depending on where these get sited, they may need them, or they might be gravity. But then it also depends where you can get a truck into to pump it out.
Right.
Yeah.
Any questions?
My question was about the truck. I mean, yes, it's erosion and stuff. I mean, the thing is, these have to be serviced, and that has to be done safely too. So trucks would have to be able to get into the site one way or another.
Correct, and we have had design in place with where it crosses golf club property. We might have to cut a very quick emergency track through golf club property if they would allow it to get a vehicle in there. But that would only be for emergency vehicle type access only, including a septic truck. I don't think that trackway would allow for public access or even homeowner access. We're talking homeowner access via walking across neighbor properties only.
Yeah.
So, I mean, would you have, they're still going to have water, electricity?
Excellent question, and it's hard to answer, Malcolm, it really is, because it depends on the nature of the breach. Say, hypothetically, if it breaches on the north end of where the current geotubes are at 105 Baxter Road, and it takes out the width of the road, within the road surface, just beneath the road surface is the water and sewer lines. On the opposite side of the road is where the electricity and telecommunications poles are, the telegraph poles, as we would say in Ireland, I beg your pardon. But that's what we still call them. But those utility poles are on the other side of the road. If the breach took one of those two, then all service is lost, so you wouldn't have anything. It depends on how bad the breach would be. Personally, I always plan for the worst case scenario. Then I'm not surprised by anything that goes wrong other than that.
But if you have that bad of a breach, isn't the house gone?
There's quite a number on the east side and the west side of the road. There could be a great number that would remain, 10 or 12 on the west side, the landward side of the road. But not the way that erosion works, and sorry for the crash course, is it tends to be episodic, not even. So you're going to get one big area calving off, and the house next door might be just fine, but the house down the road, that's gone. It's erosion is a funny beast.
So it's funny. I don't think, I want to speak for the rest of the board, I think we'd object to tight tanks, but it depends. Does the house have water? Does the house have heat? You know, does the house at the edge of the cliff and the next one to go? I mean,
appreciate those points, Malcolm, but from my point of view, a house, just as I understand it, a house just has to have water and sewer to be habitable. Whether it has electricity and heat, that doesn't need to be in place to be habitable. It's uncomfortable, but per regulation, it just has to have service.
We'd condemn it if it didn't have those.
Yeah.
The health department would condemn those houses. So.
But then if ones remain, but they don't have service for water, for heat, but they still have serviceable sewer and serviceable water that could be habitable, but how do they get to their property if they, so that's a me problem for how they walk across neighbor properties. My question is about water and sewer, particularly the sewer.
It's going to be a mess.
How many houses roughly are you talking about?
Depending on where the breach is, maximum about 22.
22?
John, this question for you. Your tight tank, we'd be concerned about a breach. Are there, essentially, can tight tanks be placed inside a larger tank? So if the one like, just would be contained.
Double wall.
Like that double wall type approach.
Well,
I mean, does that exist naturally? I mean, is that something that's already done? I don't want to invent something new for Bex Road.
I've never heard of that. I mean, I've never heard of above ground sewer either. So
is the electricity up that road, are they on poles or are they all underground?
For the most part, on poles.
On poles?
It seems to me that if you have this kind of an emergency, you do anything. I don't think we should be standing on, you know, what if it cracks? What if this? What if that? You sort of, you know, it's like working in an ER and you're triaging and you know, you've got a couple of dying people. You do whatever you can do to keep them going.
Right.
And I think that's what we're talking about here. I don't see any reason to object.
Are the owners of the property okay with this whole setup?
In order to get to that point, to even bring it to the homeowners, I need to finish this report with the select board. So I needed guidance from the Board of Health to take it back to the select board, and then start working with homeowners on easements. And that is a slightly separate question, because depending on your answer, that might also guide, do I need to get easements just for walking across land, or do I need to get easements for water and sewer pipe, just to be laid across land in an emergency situation in a temporary basis? So it's partly a legal question too.
So today, what are we
Gotta do what you gotta
asked to
do.
be doing? Are we saying, that, yeah, we would support the development of that emergency plan, and then a plan would be developed that we would be able to look at before it's acted on, before it is approved? Or, yeah, I'm just not sure exactly what we're looking at doing today.
So the plan is largely written, and Malcolm brought the question up at select board, whether it would be allowable to have temporary tight tanks, or whether you would just revoke it because it's such an emergency situation possibly anyway. And it is very much at the pleasure of the board. I'm not going to try and sway you what you would like to see. And I don't need a vote necessarily, just consensus about what you'd like how you'd like us to conclude the report.
I think you would put in the Board of Health would support the use of tight tanks, given
Emergency.
this emergency and given the situation. Yeah,
I can work with that.
I mean, it's simple. I don't think
Okay.
we'd say no.
Yeah.
All right.
I
So
just see, well, it would depend on everything we said about, you'd have to be able to get a truck in there, you'd have to be able to get it in there. And the house would also have to meet all the other requirements of habitable.
and just not to overly confuse the situation, I don't know that we would be able to promise this in the first place. There might be other constraints that might come up. We're going to have to source these materials, maybe have look at the costs for this, but that's one part of it. We're also going to have to say, well, what if we can't do each home? What if there are certain homes that we can provide service to, and then certain homes where we might bring a recommendation to, I don't know, the building department because the foundation might be cracked, or the Board of Health because there might not be serviceable sewer lines or whatever, to say that there are certain homes we may not be able to provide service to. So look at it in as rational a way as possible. And I like the word triage. That is a very good way of looking at this, to say we'll do what we can for as many as we can, but not promise everything for everyone.
Yeah.
Right.
Triage it, and like any other, whenever we have building issues, John and his team and the fire department and the building inspector would all look at a house and determine if it's habitable and what we needed to do to make it habitable or couldn't make it habitable.
So we could end up looking at a situation where we make several habitable and the Board of Health may say that some are not. I can work with that.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Go ahead.
This might not be the only issue I ever have to bring to the Board of Health. I may have to come back with something at some point, and I hope I never need the community never needs this emergency readiness plan.
Let's hope, because those were the two important words to me that you used: emergency and temporary. Yeah.
Thank you. Apologize for your long wait.
Malcolm, I was quite amused that one Irish gentleman followed another.
I know, I was thinking that. I was headed, yeah, I'm not gonna say it. So listen, guys,
Yeah.
board,
Yeah.
we have adoption of various things. I wouldn't object if we put that off to next week.
Okay, yeah,
Next
actually,
month.
the disposal works or system construction permit and certificate of compliance, I could actually probably work on that a little bit more, so.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
I'm not,
Yeah.
I don't think the health of the island would suffer if we were.
so, yeah, I guess you'd need to make a motion on that to continue.
Number, what are we talking about?
13. I think
And 14?
the food one is complete.
Can we
We'll
just,
see it next month.
yeah, that
13 and
continuance, make
14?
a motion for continuance of items 13 and 14, the disposal system construction and food establishment plan.
What,
Yeah.
postpone to next month?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
You
we have to make,
seconding it?
yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 I could give some quick updates. Short-term rentals, the GovOS, everything's up and running. It's been live for 2 weeks now. Still working out some kinks with GovOS and everything, so it's kind of one of those, everything started and we're trying to see what the bumps in the road are, so we're working through some of those things. So, but I think we're rolling along fairly well with that. So it's kind of day to day right now, but I think we're getting there. So as far as making things operate a little bit more smoothly. So next one would be PFAS, which was brought up earlier, so we can discuss that at the next meeting.
Yeah.
Obviously, that's a big topic, and there's been some changes and everything, but particularly the EPA's planning to change their maximum contaminant levels with and their hazard index for PFAS. So it's worth looking at and discussing how that affects us. Other than that, we're kind of in the mix of it's a little bit of a perfect storm with short-term rentals and PFAS and it being the end of March now and 100 restaurants wanting to open and 100 lodges and pools and camps. And so next 3 months are going to be a bit of a whirlwind. So, but staff's been doing very well. So,
Well, at least you have more staff than when Jim and I started this 4 years ago. I think there was,
absolutely.
the health director and one and a half inspectors.
Right, absolutely. Yeah. So no, it's been a big help, and being able to review things a lot more and be able to enforce things, follow up on things, which is usually a tough thing to do. The public health coordinator, as you heard, I should have introduced her, but Heather moved to filled the role of inspector that we had open. And we've been doing interviews this week for the new public health coordinator and had some good applicants. So hopefully by next week we should announce or offer a position for that. So
Good.
Yep.
Just remind you, our agenda's not too bad, update on our tick plans.
Yep. Yeah.
What
I
that
wrote
meeting was and what are our outreach plans for the season.
Okay.
It's potentially could be a banner year for the Lions
Yeah,
season.
absolutely. Yeah. As you said, the warmer weather and
You want updates like on Summer House or? Do we want any updates on some of the more bigger projects that we said we're going to require extra attention, like Summer House, or there may have been one or two others that we just said.
Yeah,
that-
we mentioned back in summer house days, we were gonna.
that there'd be a
follow up
follow-up
about
and
this time of year.
the status of how that is.
how last season went basically, and how
And
moving
also
forward.
how this season opening up. I mean, I think a couple months ago, another lawsuit was filed. So I mean, there's obviously still turmoil there and it'd be nice not to have it blow up like it did last year.
Right, absolutely. Well, it was a lot of work last season with the
Yeah.
health department, and we worked with them, and a lot went into it, into coming into compliance, and they finally reached that point. So I did see the summer house van driving this morning on the way to work. So it's that time of year. But yeah, we can put that on the agenda to discuss.
Just a quick update.
John, do you
Yes.
know a guy named John Beery, Beery?
Yes.
He sent me this thing, this long letter about, he wants to know if I will get together with him and speak, but I'm not going to do that.
Okay. I mean, we
mean,
can.
If he wants to speak to the whole board, that's fine. But
Oh.
he wants to get together with me to see if he can work something out about.
Right. Yeah, he is a camp. So
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the next level
So I'll
water
just,
sport. So we can discuss that, or you can direct them to us in the office. Yep.
Okay, anything else, ladies and gentlemen?
Make
Do I
a
hear a
motion
second?
to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, see you in a month.
All right.
Get it out from my list, told to tell you that, person that spoke at the meeting yesterday before about the PFAS in Nantucket, that Arkansas Avenue was on the Water Commission's. They impacted out